James Earl Jones died on Monday, September 9th, and I wanted to pay homage to the beloved actor, EGOT winner, and the man with the voice of God that almost wasn't.
He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become.
Struck. You heard it hit the hull, and I was never here.
James Earl Jones was born in a small rural Mississippi town at the height of the Depression. Abandoned by his parents and raised by his grandmother, he was mostly mute during the early days of his life due to his struggles with a stutter. It's one of those impossible-seeming origin stories for a man with the most thunderous and meaningful of voices in American acting. Overcoming his stutter led to an extraordinary acting style marked by unusual but not uncomfortable pauses and remarkable elocution. When you heard that deep timbre, you had to pay attention. If you were born in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, Jones was venerated and widely remembered for his roles in 5 beloved and uber-successful Hollywood productions. Of course, he was Darth Vader in the original Star Wars trilogy. He was Thulsa Doom, the malevolent wizard antagonist in Conan the Barbarian. He was King Jaffe Joffer, the jolly but forceful monarch from Coming to America starring Eddie Murphy. He was Terrence Mann, the tortured and reclusive novelist from Field of Dreams. And he was Mufasa, the slain patriarch of The Lion King. And of course, the 6th film for us elder millennials, he was one of the stars of The Sandlot. Dear God, who doesn't like The Sandlot and the goofy gravitas he brought to it?
I take it back. You're not in trouble. You're dead where you stand.
But he was more than that. He was a lot more. He was only nominated for 1 Oscar, just one time in 1970 for his role in Martin Ritt's The Great White Hope. It's a fascinating movie, a ferociously funny role as Jack Jefferson, a thinly veiled stand-in for the legendary boxer Jack Johnson. Jones is svelte and bouncy in this role. He's smiling, taunting, defying expectations. It's unlike anything we've ever seen in movies before. He was nominated for and won a Tony for that same role 1 year before the movie. In 2011, like so many amazing performers before him, Jones was eventually awarded an honorary Oscar, and as usual, it was a little too late. Though he debuted on the big screen in 1964 in a little movie called Dr. Strangelove and did hundreds of hours of TV in the 60s and 70s, his legend as an actor grew on stage. He was a master of Shakespeare, portraying Lear, Othello, and Oberon. He was Big Daddy in Tennessee Williams' Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and Lenny in Of Mice and Men. He elevated great works by Howard Sackler and August Wilson. He received 4 Tony nominations over the years, winning twice. The second win was for his originating work as Troy Maxon in August Wilson's Fences in 1987. He spent 3 years off and on playing that part on the stage, and until the Denzel Washington film more than 30 years later, it was definitive. Troy Maxon is a beaten man protecting himself from the past and the future. He was an ex-ball player who missed making it the big time just barely. His regret and frustration defines the part just as baseball has defined Jones on screen. He played it in the Bingo Long Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings, pontificated on it in Field of Dreams, mourned its potential in Fences, and hammed it up in The Sandlot. In the same way that baseball is ineffably, undeniably American, so is James Earl Jones. He conferred authority with perhaps the most recognizable voice in the history of movies, and he had an unflinching gaze. Some actors are great at bellowing, and some are great at glaring into a camera. Jones easily did both. He also routinely played proud, intelligent, powerful men during a period of dramatic change in America. He could project dignity, menace, intelligence, belligerence, profundity, rage, solemnity, all in the same part. He worked all the time. More than 100 movies in 60 years, more than 50 stage performances, dozens and dozens of TV series and TV movies and soap operas. In the second half of the 20th century, James Earl Jones was like the cosmic wallpaper of movies. He surrounded everything. Everyone has a different favorite James Earl Jones performance, even if it wasn't a star part. Maybe it's The Exorcist II, or The Hunt for Red October, or Patriot Games, or Summersby, or Best of the Best, or Charles Burnett's The Annihilation of Fish. I have 5 more that I really love, some under-the-radar roles that I think you should seek out if you love movies and you love James Earl Jones. The first is from 1970. It's called The End of the Road. It's a strange and fascinating black comedy about the absurdity of American life. Jones isn't the star. He plays a particularly out-there proprietor of a mental asylum who attempts to reform Stacy Keach's catatonic character Horner. If you liked Inherent Vice or Network, you might dig this movie. It was recently revived by Steven Soderbergh, who is one of its biggest fans. There's also 1972's The Man, which was a TV movie written by the great Rod Serling, one of my heroes. And in that movie, he plays the first black president of the United States in America, in a fascinating turn of events in which the president pro tempore of the Senate steps into the role after the president is killed and the vice president has a terminal illness. Jones is so ferociously smart in this movie. It's really worth checking out. The third movie is called Claudine. It's from 1974, just turned 50 years old. It's a romantic comedy. It's about a middle-aged woman who meets a garbage collector, and they just try to figure out their life together. It's a very small movie. Jones plays opposite Diane Carroll. At the height of the blaxploitation era, this movie redefined how black families were portrayed on the big screen. Really worth checking out. Two more from 1987. The first is Gardens of Stone. Have you heard of this movie? It's directed by Francis Ford Coppola, arguably his most forgotten or overlooked movie. Again, Jones is not the star. He's a supporting character. He plays Goody Nelson, the longtime friend and superior officer to James Caan's platoon sergeant Hazard in this mournful story about men in the military at the end of the middle age of their life. It's really worth checking out. And then the last one is Matewan. This is a John Sayles movie in which James Earl Jones appears as a coal miner. It's a gripping period piece. Jones plays Few Clothes Johnson, a miner brought in by the corrupt mining company amidst a labor strike, and he creates a raging moral quagmire in West Virginia. Jones is electrifying in this. If you like his work, if you love Darth Vader, if you love Field of Dreams, check out Matewan. R.I.P. James Earl Jones.
And I can't help that the way white folks is, but I ain't never been called no scab. And I ain't fixing to start up now. I go ton for ton loading coal with any man here. When I do, I expect the same dollar for the same work.